The van smelled of rust, sweat, and cheap gasoline. Every bump in the road sent pain shooting through the girl's wrists where rough rope bit into her skin. She had stopped crying hours ago, tears only made them laugh. Now she focused on counting turns, seconds, breaths, anything to keep fear from swallowing her whole. Her name was Lena, and she refused to disappear quietly. The men in the front seats argued over music, voices loud and careless. One of them reached back once, just to remind her he could. She shrank away, pressing her knees to her chest, her heart hammering so hard she was sure they could hear it. Then the van slowed. Brakes hissed. Gravel crunched beneath tires. A gas station appeared through the grimy rear window, flickering lights, a broken soda sign, and something else. Something unexpected. Motorcycles. 6 of them, parked in a loose line near the pumps. Chrome glinted under the harsh lights. The riders stood nearby, broad shoulders, leather vests, helmets resting against hips. They looked dangerous, untouchable, the kind of men people warned their daughters about. The van rolled to a stop. One kidnapper stepped out, stretching and lighting a cigarette. 2 minutes, he muttered. Lena's pulse roared in her ears. 2 minutes. That was all she needed, or all she had. The man left inside leaned back in his seat, scrolling his phone, bored and unaware. The rope around her wrists was loose enough to move, just enough. Her fingers tingled with pain as she shifted closer to the back door. She swallowed hard. If she was wrong, this would be the last mistake she ever made. She leaned forward until her face pressed close to the window. The glass was scratched and dusty, but clear enough. One biker turned slightly, and froze. Their eyes met. Lena didn't scream, didn't beg. She raised her bound hands slowly, deliberately, forcing them into view. Then she dragged one finger across her throat in a sharp, unmistakable motion. Her lips formed a single word. Help. Time seemed to stall. The biker's jaw tightened. His cigarette fell from his fingers and burned out on the concrete. Another rider followed his gaze, then another. Helmets were lifted. Engines went quiet. The man inside the van looked up too late. What are you? Engines exploded to life. Motorcycles surrounded the van in seconds, metal and thunder hemming it in from every side. The smoker spun around, panic flashing across his face. Lena sank back against the cold metal wall, breath shaking, heart racing wildly. She didn't know who those men were. She only knew one thing. They had seen her, and they hadn't looked away. The roar of engines wasn't noise, it was a warning. Marcus killed his bike and swung off in one smooth motion, boots hitting the concrete with purpose. Years on the road had taught him how to read danger, and this one screamed. A locked van, tinted windows, a girl's eyes that carried too much fear for someone on a road trip. He lifted his hand once. That was all it took. The others moved instantly. No shouting, no confusion. One biker rolled his machine directly in front of the van, blocking the hood. Another eased in behind it, trapping the rear doors. 2 more fanned out to the sides, hands close, but not reaching, for their weapons. They weren't looking for a fight. They were ready for one. The kidnapper with the cigarette spun around, smoke spilling from his mouth. Hey, what the hell? Marcus closed the distance before the man finished the sentence. He grabbed the front of his jacket and slammed him into the van, metal ringing like a bell. The cigarette dropped, crushed beneath Marcus's boot. Step away, Marcus said, calm and cold. Now, inside the van, the second man panicked. He reached under the seat, eyes wild. Bad move. A biker named Cole ripped open the passenger door and yanked him out by the collar. The man barely had time to shout before his wrist twisted and something popped. The weapon clattered uselessly to the ground. Hands where we can see them, Cole growled. A third man burst from the driver's seat, swinging wildly. He never landed a punch. 2 bikers took him down hard, pinning him face first against the concrete. The entire confrontation lasted less than 30 seconds. Inside the van, Lena pressed herself into the corner, trembling. She flinched at every sound. Metal, voices, the sharp breath of pain, but something else crept in beneath the fear. Relief. The back doors creaked open. Lena squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for another nightmare. Instead, she heard a voice, low, steady, and close to the ground. You're safe, Marcus said. She opened her eyes. He wasn't towering over her. He was kneeling, level with her, keeping his hands visible. A knife flashed once, clean and precise, slicing through the rope at her wrists. The fibers fell away, her arms dropped uselessly into her lap, blood rushing back with painful pins and needles. She let out a sound halfway between a sob and a laugh. "I saw you," she whispered. "I didn't know if you'd understand." Marcus met her gaze, something fierce and gentle all at once in his eyes. "We understood." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus draped his jacket over her shoulders. "You did exactly right." For the first time in 2 days, Lena believed she might actually survive this. The world felt strangely quiet once the fight was over. Lena sat on the curb beside the van, wrapped in a heavy leather jacket that swallowed her frame. The night air was cool against her overheated skin, carrying the scent of gasoline and rain-soaked asphalt. Her hands still shook as she gripped a plastic bottle of water someone had pressed into her palms. "Small sips," a biker said gently. She nodded and obeyed, even though her throat felt too tight to swallow. A man named Cole stood a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes locked on the road. He wasn't watching Lena, he was watching everything else. Every passing car, every shadow, like nothing would get near her without going through him first. Marcus crouched in front of her again, keeping his voice low. "What's your name, Lena? How long have you been with them?" She stared at the cracked concrete, tracing a line with the toe of her borrowed boots. 2 days. They grabbed me at the bus stop. Said it was quick money. The words landed heavy. Someone behind Marcus muttered a curse. Another biker turned away, jaw tight. "You did the bravest thing possible," Marcus said. "You saw help and you took it." Lena let out a shaky breath. "I thought people like you." She stopped, embarrassed. He gave a small, knowing smile. "Yeah, we get that a lot." Red and blue lights painted the gas station in flashes as police cars pulled in. Officers moved fast but cautiously, hands near their belts until they took in the scene. 3 men restrained, 6 bikers calm and compliant, 1 girl wrapped in a jacket like armor. Marcus stood and raised his hands slowly. "Victims safe. We witnessed everything." Body cameras blinked on. One of the bikers handed over a helmet cam. "It's all on here." Lena watched the exchange from a distance, feeling oddly separate from it all, like she was floating just above her own body. When an officer knelt beside her, she flinched, then steadied herself. "You're okay now," the officer said. "We'll take you somewhere safe." She nodded, but before standing, she looked back at Marcus. "I don't even know your last names," she said. "I won't forget this." Marcus shook his head. "You don't need to remember us. Just remember the signal." As they helped her into the patrol car, Lena glanced back one last time. The bikers stood together under the harsh station lights, not celebrating, not boasting. Just watching, making sure. As the door closed, her chest finally loosened. Cheers came then, quiet and unstoppable. The car pulled away. Behind it, engines rumbled to life, soft this time, like a promise rather than a threat. Lena rested her forehead against the cool glass. For the first time since she'd been taken, she felt the road leading somewhere safe. The video surfaced 3 days later. Lena found it by accident, half awake in her childhood bedroom, scrolling through her phone while sunlight crept across the walls. The headline froze her thumb mid-swipe. "Kidnapped girl saved after silent signal to bikers." Her stomach tightened. She watched with the sound off at first. The grainy footage showed the gas station lights, the van boxed in by motorcycles, men shouting, engines roaring. She didn't recognize herself at first. Just a small figure wrapped in leather, sitting on the curb like she was holding herself together by force of will. She turned the sound on. The noise made her flinch, but she didn't look away. Comments poured in beneath the video. Some were shocked, some were angry. Many admitted something they'd never said out loud before, that they'd judged people in leather without ever knowing the code they lived by. Lena closed the app and stared at the ceiling. Surviving didn't feel like triumph. It felt like responsibility. A week later, she stood in a small community center, hands clasped tight as she faced a room full of teenage girls and worried parents. Her voice trembled at first, but it steadied as she spoke. "Signals matter," she said. "Eye contact matters. Trusting your instincts matters. I didn't know those men, but they knew the sign. She demonstrated it slowly. The gesture across the throat. The look. The wordless plea. Phones came out. People practiced. People remembered. Miles away, Marcus watched the same video from a roadside diner, coffee gone cold in his hands. He didn't read the comments. He watched the moment Lena met his eyes, over and over. "World's talking about you," Cole said, sliding into the booth. Marcus shrugged. "Good. Maybe next time someone won't get ignored." They rode out at dusk, engines humming beneath an open sky. No destination, no spotlight, just the road and the rule they lived by. Back home, Lena taped a small note to her mirror. "Don't look away." She still jumped at sudden noises. Still woke from dreams where the van never stopped. But she also walked taller now. Stronger. Because she knew something most people didn't. Help doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes, it rides in on two wheels. And answers without being asked.